Everyone, we're group 3. We did chapter 7 on performance management and appraisal. My name's AuJanae. I'm a senior in business management.
My name is Abraham Mao. I am a senior and I am general management.
My name is Peyton Remish. I'm a junior and I'm safety manager.
My name is Cait. I'm a senior and a business management major.
My name is Green. I'm a junior here and I'm studying safety management.
So 7.1 is about describing performance management, performance appraisal, and the performance appraisal process. 7.2 explains the uses of performance appraisal and performance criteria. 7.3 describes the choice of various performance appraisal methods. 7.4 assesses the effectiveness and limitations of performance appraisals. 7.5 explains how to conduct the appraisal interview. And 7.6 summarizes the key trends in performance appraisal practice. So 7.1, performance management is a process that ensures 1, an organization's goals are met effectively and efficiently, and 2, productivity is maximized. It achieves strategic goals, measures and improves the value of the workforce, ensures time management, and it has 3 different components, which include training, performance appraisal, and compensation. The performance management system is a continuous process. Each individual is in the organization is a part of the performance management system and has responsibility to make sure that the system is effective. And recently, this has been the largest contributor to organization effectiveness. Performance appraisal is a formal system used to review and evaluate an individual employee or a group of employees, though most firms focused on the individual. It is a vital component of performance management and has high priority. It includes evaluation of achievements and planning for development, goals, and objectives. And like the performance management system, appraisal should happen on a continuing basis. The purpose of the performance appraisal is to provide feedback, encourage performance improvement, justify terminations, identify training and development needs, defend personnel decisions, and make valid decisions. The process starts with identifying specific performance goals. Usually there are multiple, so they just select the most important and realistically achievable goals. And then they establish these expectations and criteria and communicate them to the employees. Then the appraisal happens where they review and evaluate performance against the standards. They see how well goals are met, find reasons for deficiencies, and make a correction plan. And then they set new goals for the upcoming new appraisal period. And this process can be developmental and or evaluative.
7.2 talks about the uses of performance appraisal and performance criteria. So here on the screen shows kind of 3 points of the uses of performance appraisal. One is the primary goal of an appraisal system is to improve individual and organizational performance. 2 is a properly used system can help achieve organizational objectives and enhance employee performance. And 3 is performance appraisal data are potentially valuable for virtually every human resource functional area. Human resource planning. So firms can use a PA to identify those who can be promoted. The PA may show that not enough workers are prepared to enter management. And if this is the case, then plans can be made to help with management development, which can prepare workers to enter management. There's also training and development where this identifies worker-specific needs for training and development, and this does not train the whole group it does not train the group as a whole. Career planning and development, this includes an ongoing process where an individual sets career goals and identify the means to achieve them. Organizations use this to ensure that people with proper qualifications and experiences are available when needed. Compensation programs. So PAs give information that managers they can use to make decisions on giving workers pay raises or not, and with other types of compensation. Internal employee relations, PAs also give information that can help with deciding promotion, demotion, termination, layoff, and transfer. The next section in 7.2 is performance criteria. This includes goal achievement. This is used when the ends are more important than the means, and it should be the most positive element in the entire process. Performance criteria also includes improvement potential. This is when organizations evaluate employees' performance based on the worker's future by using development and setting goals. The next section in 7.2 is responsibility for performance appraisal. This includes the customer appraisal, which determines the firm's degree of success, and it demonstrates a commitment to the customer, holds the employees accountable, and fosters change. 360-degree feedback, it provides an all-inclusive view of each employee, and people all around the employee can provide input, and having multiple raters makes this legally defendable. The last section of 7.2 is performance appraisal period, and it occurs annually or semi-annually. Is a continuous job every day for managers. Some organizations use the employee's date of hire to determine the rating period, which is usually 30 to 90 days. And if firms do not conduct all appraisals at the same time, it may be impossible to make needed comparisons between employees.
Okay, 7.3 covers choosing a performance appraisal method. There's 4 categories of performance appraisal systems. The first being trait systems. Trait systems evaluate each employee's traits and characteristics. They're highly subjective because they assume every supervisor's perception of a given trait is the same. And they also rate individuals on subjective personality factors rather than on objective job performance data. The next is comparison systems. They evaluate one employee's performance against that of the other employees. They rank from best to worst. Next, there's behavioral systems, which rate employees on the extent to which they display successful job performance behaviors. 3 main types are critical incident technique, which incumbents and supervisors identify performance incidents that distinguish successful performances from unsuccessful ones. Behaviorally anchored rating scales. They're a lot like CITs, but the designers of bars rate the incidents as expectations to show that the employee does not have to demonstrate the exact behavior. And behavioral observation scales display illustrations of positive incidents of job performance for various dimensions. And then the next category is results-based systems, which focus on measurable outcomes such as individuals or team scales, customer service ratings, productivity, reduced incident of workplace injuries, and etc. Management by objectives is possibly the most effective PA technique because supervisors and employees determine objectives for employees to meet during the rating period, and employees evaluate how they will do on their objective. They're time consuming and to constant flow of info between employees and employers.
Um, 7.4 is about assessing the effectiveness and limitations of performance appraisal practices. So the most basic purposes of a performance appraisal system is to improve the performance of individuals, teams, and essentially the entire organization. The system may also serve in assisting to the making of administrative decisions concerning pay increases, promotions, transfers, or terminations. Also, the appraisal system must be legally defensible, meaning it must be able to protect itself in a court of law. There are many characteristics of an effective appraisal system that need to be present in order to form the best version of that system. Reliability refers to the extent to which a method provides consistent results. Validity is the extent to which a test measures what it claims to measure. If a performance appraisal method measures something other than job performance, it has no value. Second, job relatedness is perhaps the most basic criterion needed in employee performance appraisals. The evaluation instrument should tie in closely to the accomplishment of organization goals. Next, the employee must understand in advance what is expected of them. This ensures that they continue to do the job they were hired to do at their best ability. Standardization is important in making sure the same evaluation instrument is used for all employees in the same job category who work for the same supervisor. This keeps consistency in the system. Having trained appraisers is key to making sure the appraisals are done accurately and effectively. Continuous open communication is essential in all aspects of a job, but more importantly within the performance appraisal system. Most employees have a strong need to know how well they are performing. This, along with conducting performance reviews, are main factors in keeping employees motivated and thus constantly improving. Ensuring due process is vital. The company must have a procedure for pursuing their grievances and having them addressed objectively. Conducting performance appraisals is often a frustrating task for managers. If a PA system has a faulty design or improper administration, employees will dread receiving appraisals and the manager will despise giving them. A potential common weakness of PA methods is that they lack objectivity. Almost all people make rating errors, which reflect differences between human judgment processes versus objective, accurate assessments, uncolored by bias, prejudice, or other subjective influences. Major types of rate errors include bias errors, contrast errors, errors of central tendency, and errors of leniency or strictness. Bias errors happen when the rater evaluates the employee based on a personal negative or positive opinion of the employee rather than the employee's actual performance. Contrast errors occur when supervisors compare an employee with other employees rather than to specific explicit performance standards. When supervisors rate all employees as average or close to average, they commit errors of central tendency. Finally, with a leniency error, managers often tend to appraise employees' performance more highly than compared with objective criteria. Employee lawsuits may result from negative evaluations. Perfect systems are not expected, and the law does not preclude supervisory discretion in the process. However, the courts normally require an absence of adverse impact on members of protected classes or validation of the process. Mistakes in appraising performance and decisions based on invalid results can have serious repercussions. Discriminatory merit pay increases have resulted in costly legal action. In settling cases, courts have held employers liable for back pay, court costs, and other costs related to training and promoting certain employees in protected classes. These are the rest of my slides. I forgot to click them, but these are the errors that can be included in appraisal systems. And these are the lawsuits.
So section 7.5 talks about conducting performance appraisal interviews. And this is often referred to as the Achilles heel of the entire evaluation process. In order to reduce the chances of hard feelings happening within the workplace, it's up to the manager to conduct performance improvement, and that should be the goal, and with face-to-face meetings. And there are 5 steps that managers have to take whenever they are conducting performance appraisal interviews, and they are scheduling an interview is the first step. Second step is to do an interview structure. Third step is the use of praise and criticism. Fourth is the employee's role, and then fifth is concluding the interview. So the first step is scheduling an interview, and it's up to the supervisors to make a clear decision to the employee about what the meeting's about. And then the second step is the interview structure, and this should be structured that allows the supervisor and the employee to view it as problem solving. The employee's performance should be discussed, specifically when it comes to great accomplishments, and the employee should also be assisted in creating goals for the next appraisal period. The third step is the use of praise and criticism. This particularly focuses on only one negative item, and that can lead to bad relationships along with other employees. Appraisal interviews should require tact and patience on part of an evaluator. Praise should be a positive experience for both parties, but the manager must display the correct body language. Fourth step's the employee's role. Employees should go through different diaries or files at least 2 weeks before the review, and then record all special projects that they've worked on. And the best way to prepare for this is to come up with different lists of creative ways that they have solved different types of problems with very little resources. And the fifth and the final step in performance appraisal interviews is concluding the interview. In a perfect world, it would be if the employees leave with a positive feeling about management, company, and jobs and themselves. If this doesn't happen, the hope for improved performance will diminish significantly. The interview should conclude with specific and mutually agreed on plans for the employee's growth. And it's up to the managers to promise any employee who requires more training that it will be imminent, and the supervisor will have their full support.
So 7.6 is about the trends in performance appraisal practice. In recent years, many HR professionals, business executives, and employees have questioned the value of traditional annual performance appraisal methods. A survey by Deloitte University revealed that 78% of HR professionals said that the performance management is important or very important. However, only 8% of the respondents stated that their performance management process drove business results. This led many companies to not conduct ratings. In fact, by 2015, 51 large firms were changing to a system without ratings, and many more are contemplating the same. However, some companies recognize the value of frequent feedback and elements of a rating system. For instance, IBM uses in technology to facilitate more frequent performance reviews. In conclusion, traditional performance appraisal methods have come under great scrutiny in recent years. Some firms have changed their approach, and others remain somewhat skeptical about moving away from traditional methods. However, all firms can agree that performance appraisals are important in keeping their employees motivated and keeping up to the best of their ability. So we have a little video about the 5 key success factors of a performance appraisal.
Hi, today's bite is all about performance appraisal, what it is and how to implement it by looking at AIHR's top 5 best practices. Stay tuned. What is a performance appraisal? Performance appraisal is also referred to as the performance review, performance evaluation, and employee appraisal. Performance appraisal is a method to regularly evaluate an employee's job performance and overall contribution to the company in an effort to improve that performance. Performance appraisals help to provide feedback. It is a formal moment intended to evaluate job performance. It also helps in making key employee decisions, including giving bonuses, promotions, and firing. A crucial element of the employee appraisal is that it is a shared responsibility. On the one hand, it is a shared responsibility between the employee and manager. While the manager has the lead in this process, an active involvement of the employee creates the buy-in that is necessary to make the improvements that the performance appraisal is set up for in the first place. On the other hand, conducting performance management is also a shared responsibility between the manager and HR. The manager does the execution, but HR helps in guiding the performance appraisal process. What are the 5 key success factors of a performance appraisal? Every company conducts their performance appraisals differently. However, there are several best practices that every manager should know. 1, use a clear outline. Both managers and employees may feel uncomfortable during the performance appraisal. It is arguably the most formal setting they will be in all year, and it doesn't happen often enough to make it a common phenomenon. Using a job performance evaluation form or some other appraisal outline will be very helpful for both the preparation of the meeting and for doing the performance review itself. We attach a link to a performance evaluation form below as an example. 2, involve the employee as much as possible. One of the key challenges in employee appraisals is creating buy-in from the employee. This is backed up by science. A meta-analysis found a strong correlation between the participation of the employee in the performance evaluation and their buy-in. Employee participation is the extent to which employees are able to participate in the performance appraisal session. Employees who participated in their performance review were more satisfied, rated the session as much more fair, useful, and were much more motivated to improve. The meta-analysis we mentioned previously found that a high degree of employee participation explained up to 40% employee satisfaction, 35% of perceived fairness, 30% in perceived usefulness, and 19% in motivation to improve. This shows that it definitely pays off to involve the employee. 3, start with the bad news. Most of us have learned to start with good news before delivering the bad news and suggestions for improvement. According to Daniel Pink, employees are more satisfied when bad news is addressed early on in the interview. Positive information is then saved until the end, so the meeting will end on a positive note. 4, employees want more regular feedback. Getting feedback once a year is not something that will drive performance. Employees report they are looking for regular, continuous feedback to do their work better. Find ways to let managers touch base with employees continuously using technology. 5, carefully document your employee performance appraisal sessions. Important decisions about whom to promote, which salaries to raise, but also who to terminate are based on performance management information. Performance appraisal meetings should, therefore, be meticulously documented. Performance data should be assessed and reported in a standardized way across the organization and stored in a central database. This is also important when you switch to more continuous feedback. This wraps up our bite on the performance appraisal. In this bite, you learned what a performance appraisal is and 5 best practices to implement it in your own organization. If you want to know more about performance appraisal, check out our in-depth written article in the description link.
Here's our incident. These things are a pain. There, at last, that's finished, thought Rajiv Chaudhry as he laid aside the last of 12 PA forms. It had been a busy week for Rajiv, who supervises a road maintenance crew for the Georgia Department of Highways. In passing through Rajiv's district a few days previously, the governor had complained to the area superintendent that repairs were needed on several of the highways. Because of this, the superintendent assigned Rajiv's crew an unusually heavy workload. In addition, Rajiv received a call from the HR office that week reminding him that the tasks were late. Rajiv explained his predicament, but the HR specialist insisted that the forms be completed right away. Looking over the appraisals again, Rajiv thought about several of the workers. The PA forms had places for marking quantity of work, quality of work, and cooperativeness. For each characteristic, the worker could be graded outstanding, good, average, below average, or unsatisfactory. As Rajiv's crew had completed all the extra work assigned for that week, he marked every worker outstanding in quantity of work. He marked Joe Blum average in cooperativeness because Joe had questioned one of the decisions that week. Rajiv had decided to patch a pothole in one of the roads, and Joe thought the small section of the road should be broken out and replaced. Rajiv didn't include this in the remarks section of the form, though. As a matter of fact, he wrote no remarks on any of the forms.
Rajiv felt a twinge of guilt as he thought about Roger Short. He knew that Roger had been goofing off, and the other workers had been carrying him for quite some time. He also knew that Roger would be upset if he found that he had been marked lower than the other workers. Consequently, he marked Roger the same to avoid any confrontation. Anyway, Rajiv thought, these things are a pain, and I really shouldn't have to bother with them. As Rajiv folded up the PAs and put them in the envelope for mailing, he smiled. He was glad he wouldn't have to think about PAs for another 6 months. So we have questions about the incident. The first question, what weaknesses do you see in Rajiv's performance appraisals? So some of the weaknesses that we saw with Rajiv is that the first section where it talked about Joe Blum questioning one of his decisions about the pothole, we thought that Rajiv shouldn't have marked him average just for asking that question on the decision. Maybe it would be above average instead of average. Another thing was that for Roger Short, since he had been goofing off and he wasn't working as hard as the other workers, Rajiv marked him outstanding along with the other workers instead of telling the truth about Roger. And then one last thing was that Rajiv didn't have any remarks for anybody in the remarks section, and we thought that was a key important thing that he should have done. The other questions we will just leave for you to answer on your own, and we will then get into the discussion questions.
So the discussion questions that we have are, if you were the CEO of a company, how important do you think conducting performance appraisals would be? And the second question is, what are the consequences of not conducting performance appraisals on a continuing basis?